maybe caught in traffic.
Traffic's really bad.
Yeah, it's all backed up because of the highway.
Good evening, everyone. I would like to call the May 11th, 2023 regular meeting of the Moraine City Council to order at 6 o'clock. Roll call, please.
Mrs. Allen?
Here,
Mr. Miller?
Here.
Mr. Doherty? Ms. Marcus? Mr. Burchett?
Here.
Mrs. Witt?
Here,
Mayor Murphy?
Here.
and I'll make a motion that we excuse Mr. Doherty from tonight's meeting.
and I'll make a motion we excuse, go ahead.
Okay, roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mr.
Yes.
Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Say yes.
Yes,
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Thank you.
And could you put in the things that Mrs. Marcus is here now?
Yes, thank you.
Okay, now if everyone would help me with the Pledge of Allegiance.
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Council has copies of the April 27, 2023 regular meeting minutes. Does anyone have any changes or corrections? Hearing none, the minutes are approved as submitted. We have no special presentations tonight, so we'll go into reports. Finance Committee, anything to report?
no report, thank you.
Finance Director, anything to report?
I do have my April monthly report in the packet, and I don't have anything to add unless anyone has questions.
Committee of the Whole, anything to report?
Nothing to report.
City Manager, anything to report?
Thank you, Mayor. I have nothing beyond the written report. However, I would like to ask for Aaron Vitor to come out to talk for a few minutes about the annual report that was placed in front of you for the meeting.
So we got the off the press report here. Just a few little highlights to kind of talk about. So in the book, what we did this year was we talked about some of the projects that we accomplished last year and some of the things that we're looking forward to for the next year. One of the things I thought was kind of really cool was the property taxes paid by residents. I thought that number was pretty cool. All the services that they get for the city, and if you own a $100,000 home in town, you pay approximately $77 to the city of Moraine. Most of the taxes go towards the school district and Sinclair and human services and stuff like that. There's some really cool numbers in here from all the departments, Park and Rec, Police Department, Fire Department. Talk about the new purchase of the pumper. There's a map in here talking about some of the roads that were recently done, so as in 22, 21, 20, and then also the roads that are slated to be adjusted or repaired or whatever for 23. But yeah, there's a lot of good info in here, and then it even highlights the comp plan. So if anybody needs any extra copies, feel free to reach out and let us know.
Looks very nice.
Thanks.
The annual report ends up having a long shelf life for us as well for marketing purposes and promotion and things like that. So, Aaron, thank you for all the hard work.
Okay, anything else?
No, thank you.
Law Director, anything to report?
No report, thank you.
Clerk of Council, anything to report?
I just included a short page in your packet. If you have any questions about that, just let me know. That's all.
And I have the Mayor's Court Monthly. Mayor's Court for the month of April 2023, the gross revenues for Mayor's Court was $21,769 after various expenses and disbursements A total of $16,251 was deposited into the general fund. And we have no guest speakers, so we will go into business.
Ordinance 2136-23, an ordinance to amend Moraine Codified Ordinance Section 333.11 entitled Texting While Driving Prohibited.
This ordinance amends MCO Section 333-111, 11, to match the changes in the ORC that the state recently implemented regarding texting while driving. Motion to approve.
You've heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ordinance 2137-23, an ordinance to amend Moraine Codified Ordinance Section 131.01 entitled Chief Contracting Officer, and to amend Moraine Codified Ordinance Section 159.01 entitled Competitive Bidding, and further to amend Moraine Codified Ordinance Section 159.02 entitled Bids Otherwise Required.
This ordinance amends MCO sections 131.01, 159.01, and 159.02 to allow for changes in the competitive bidding threshold to enable better purchasing opportunities for the city. Make a motion to approve.
You've heard the motion. Any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ordinance 2138-23, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Moraine, State of Ohio, for the period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
This ordinance allows for the transfer of funds through a supplemental appropriation in relation to the purchase of a medic vehicle for use by the fire division. I move to suspend the rules to allow for the second reading and final adoption at this meeting.
Roll call, please.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes.
Ordinance 2138-23, an ordinance to make supplemental appropriations for current expenses and other expenditures of the City of Moraine, State of Ohio, for the period January 1st, 2023 to December 31st, 2023, and declaring an emergency.
Motion to approve.
You've heard the motion. Is there any questions or comments? Roll call, please.
Ms. Marcus?
Yes.
Mrs. Witt?
Yes.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes.
Mrs. Allen?
Yes.
Mr. Miller?
Yes.
Mayor Murphy?
Yes. We have no one appearing before council, so we'll go into departments. Fire Department, anything to report?
No report, thank you, ma'am.
Police Department, anything to report?
No report, thank you, ma'am.
Building and Maintenance Department, anything to report?
We have nothing to report, thank you.
Street Department, anything to report?
We just want to send our condolences out to the family of Gary Colvin. He was a past street department employee who passed away this week.
Parks and Recreation Director, anything?
I have nothing to report.
Community Development Director, anything to report?
Nothing to report tonight, thank you.
City Manager, anything to report?
I have nothing additional. Thank you, Mayor.
Law Director, anything further to report?
No, Mayor, thank you.
Finance Director, anything further to report?
No report, thank you.
Clerk of Council, anything further to report?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Ms. Allen?
Nothing to report, thank you.
Ms. Marcus?
First of all, I have a question. Does anybody know if this parking lot up here on Central that I was stuck in tonight for 10 minutes is a continuous problem, or is it just something with tonight?
There was an accident.
There was an accident on 75 South that has closed part of the road.
Okay.
So part of the highway, and so folks are using all the internal major arteries within the city of Moraine. 741 Dryden Road, and that's creating a lot of the back.
Okay, I just wondered, I could see it going slow, but I didn't know if it was an accident or some construction on it, because I know this time of year we do have construction.
Yeah, no, it's not due to construction this time.
Okay, I also want to note that I am here, even though I missed that roll call, but Another thing I had was basically a question for Parks and Rec. Our community yard sale. Last year, I had stuff out, not a person came by. This year, I had stuff out, nobody came by. And both times we've had rain. And I've noticed that this year, the city of West Carrollton has theirs the weekend after hours. I wonder if there's some way we could collaborate with the city of West Carrollton and hold them at the same time and each take advantage of the other's yard sale?
I can reach out to Christian and ask if that's something they'd want to do. It's always been at that time of year, I believe, here.
I've always said I thought it should be in June. It always rains, it's always cold.
Well, I would ask, though, this usually coincides with large trash pickup, is that correct, Chris? So if there was a change in that, how would that impact the street schedule?
Yeah, because you couldn't have large trash out at the same time. somebody's
I mean, it wouldn't affect, it would affect the residents more than it would affect us. I mean, with them being able to put stuff out that didn't sell in the garage sale weekend. It's typically what
I
happens.
mean, do you have the possibility to move the schedule a week or two yourself within streets for assignment?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'd like to add, also, I believe I'm correct in saying that Centerville had theirs the same time.
Same as ours, or?
Yeah,
was it-
same.
Same as ours.
I didn't see anything online about Centerville, but there was a lot of talk about West Carrollton. So West Carrollton people were talking about ours some. And then this past weekend, there was a lot of stuff on social media with West Carrollton. Not from the city so much, but from the residents. And I thought if we could capture that and benefit both communities, because we are so close together, that it might help both of us.
Again, Parks can look into it a little more, and then we can have a further discussion, if you would like.
Another thing I wanted to bring up, I know when I first moved here, it seems to me we had big trash pickup like every month, which was too much. We had it every quarter, which was a bit much. Now we have it once a year, and I was wondering if we couldn't benefit from having it twice a year, once in the
We used
spring
to-
and once in the fall.
We always had it we always had it twice. We had it once in the spring and once like in September.
So part of the struggle behind that, and in fact, I'm going to let Chris talk for a minute as well, because he shared some of this with me. You can now call the city of Dayton in advance and get large trash pickup all year long. And because of that, and a lot of our residents taking advantage of that, the loads have been much smaller within the street department. Chris, would you like to talk a little more about that?
Yeah, so the city of Dayton doesn't regulate how many times you put large trash out, and the city's already paying for that to be picked up. So basically, when we do large trash, we're paying double. Because when we pick up the trash, we have to pay the dump fees and all that. If we would just make the residents call Dayton, it's already included in what the city's paying.
Well,
And the reason why we don't do it as often now is because back then we had two departments. So, once the street department had, this many employees, the parks department had this many. Now both departments are combined. We're working with about half the staff, and we just don't have the ability to do that. And with grass mowing and everything else, it's just hard to stay on top of everything else along with the large trash.
yeah, well, I think it could benefit from having one in the fall from the residents' point of view as well, because doing the bulk trash pickup with Dayton, you gotta keep track of what the week it is, because it's only like every 2 weeks, and then they're picky about what they take. I've seen cases where they won't take any drywall, they won't take any styrofoam, and so that leaves the residents still with stuff to get, and if people are working on their properties, they have that type of stuff to get out.
Actually, we met with Dayton, the city of Dayton, and we actually what we take is exactly in line with what they take. They will take. They move some stuff, we move some stuff, and we're in line with exactly the same stuff that will be accepted to be picked up.
Yeah, well, that does cause some problems for the residents. And I noticed in the Moraine report this time that it says all brush has to be cut down to 4 foot. And it's always been a plus for big trash pickup. It says you didn't have to cut that down to 4 foot, because not everybody has the equipment to do it, and it's a lot more work. With the city, you have to cut it down, city of Dayton, you have to cut down to 4 foot, and you have to tie it up.
That's
a
Well,
lot
that's,
more work
that's,
to do.
that's a requirement for us
That's
as
always
well.
been-
That's
Yeah.
always been a
No,
requirement.
no.
for us.
That's always been a requirement for the street department. People just don't follow the
We
rules.
may not have,
Yeah,
people may
they
not
still
have been
pick it up.
adhering to it,
It's always said.
but it's always been in the
I've
regulations.
never bounded, I don't recall seeing any notice of it. I know when I first moved here, which was in '84, of course, I filled up the front yard with branches and stuff from buying the property, trying to clean it up, and they didn't get past my house, so that night I went and filled up the whole front yard again, and I never cut anything down to 4 foot.
Well, we try to serve the residents to keep them happy, but, I mean, there is guidelines, and there has always been guidelines, as long as I've been with the city, as far as cutting it to the right length and such, so.
Well, the only thing I agree with her in the fall, I'm not out there or my husband cleaning out our garage in April when it's pouring down rain or it's freezing cold. I mean, nobody goes out and cleans out their garage in April. It's raining half the time, or it's so cold you don't want to go out in your garage.
But
So
you-
most people don't want to clean it until later on, until it warms up.
But
and you
what he
can open it.
said, you can clean it anytime, put it out, call City of Dayton. They'll pick up anytime. I've called them, they've picked up.
Well, that's true, but not if
It
you have
it
a
is,
lot.
I think it is important, this discussion's
oil.
expanded a little bit, that, you know, one of the points that Chris brought up is this service is something that we're paying for. And I don't, actually, when Chris and I talked, he was gonna get some numbers together. I think it's a little bit too early right now to be able to share that, but there are additional costs to us when we're going out, we're picking up, we're paying those dump fees at Montgomery County Solid Waste as well. So we're paying for a service that can be used, and then we're also going out and picking up lighter loads because people are using the Dayton service. And then we're also having to take that tonnage or pounds or whatever it is and dump that and pay those fees as well. And Chris, it's a little too early to know those numbers, correct? From when we chatted? Or-
For this year, it will be, in your annual report, it says that we picked up 113 tons of large trash material
In 22.
in '22. So, you know, that's, I would guess, it's hard to tell exactly, but I would say that's somewhere around $10,000 that we paid just to dump the large trash fees.
Well, could we move it to June or something instead of, April's just I mean, the first week of May, April's just a crappy month.
Yep.
It's never a nice month. It's always raining or cold or,
We can look into that more too. I know that some of the challenges are, that's big
I
mowing
know,
season,
I know.
landscaping season, things of that nature. But there might be some possibility to move it. But again, I would assume it would have to align with garage sales as well, because a lot of times whatever
Right.
doesn't sell ends up getting put to the curb, and we don't want that sitting out there for weeks at a time.
But as far as the cost and stuff, I've always been fully aware that it costs the city to do that. But we've done it in the past, and I know we don't have the kind of money we had when GM was open, so we can't do it like every quarter, every month, or whatever it was that we used to do years ago. But part of the reason for the big trash was to encourage people to clean up their properties, keep their properties up. So now we have this stuff where you have trouble getting rid of the stuff, because Dayton does not always comply that easy. I mean, there's times when I call them and they're real nice, other times I get calls somebody that's just a smart out. And a lot of stuff has to be bagged up, and I've seen cases where people have had to bag up pieces of drywall, cut it down and bag it up and stuff. That's just more work to be done, and even then Dayton left it sitting on the curb. So, I don't know, I just like to see an easier way to get rid of the debris from people doing an honest update, not people hauling stuff in here.
I don't think it's so much a money or a financial as it is a staffing issue with being able to do it multiple times a year from our aspect in our department.
Well, I'm only talking about adding once, because people don't do that much, I don't think, tear out and stuff in the wintertime where they would be taking stuff out of the house and so forth. It's gonna be in the summertime, and if we have it in the spring, we're having the big trash. I'm not saying that isn't needed, but we're having big trash there before people do their remodeling, and then after the remodeling, there's other stuff that has to be, and there was, I know there was one time when I had something that Dayton wouldn't pick up because I couldn't cut it down to 4 foot. I did end up storing it and waiting for the city's big trash because it was 8 foot or so long, and I had no way of cutting it. And to put it out through Dayton, I had to cut it.
Well, again, we've had some discussions on it, and we'll continue those discussions and let you know.
I just
But
wanted to.
when you look at the service we're paying for, the cost and the staffing side of it, we need to kind of get a good picture of that and understand when the availability would, when it could be possible to give a consideration to a second opportunity in the fall, how that would line up with whatever the responsibilities are within the street department at that time.
Yeah, I just wanted to suggest it to bring it to the city's attention. I have nothing else then.
Thank you.
Ms. Witt?
Nothing to add. Thank you.
Mr. Miller?
Nothing tonight, Mayor, thank you.
Mr. Burchett?
Yes, last week, Thursday, May 4th, I attended the board meeting of the MVRPC. That's all. Thank you.
Okay, and I have nothing really to report tonight, so I would like to thank the Miami Valley Communications Council for broadcasting this meeting live as well as any future rebroadcast. And this regular council meeting is adjourned at 6:20.